Welcome to the Marketing Expert series, where we speak to the brilliant minds shaping marketing, learn what's working, and help you grow your brand. So, in this episode, I have the pleasure of having a conversation with Ravena from Koppiku. Welcome to the episode, Ravena.
Thank you so much for having me, Razi.
Maybe we can start with an introduction. If you could introduce yourself for anyone who is hearing from you for the first time.
I'm Ravena. I'm currently leading the marketing for Koppiku. I have been in marketing for more than a decade now. And yeah, I started with co-founding my own company back in 2014-ish. It was called Venuescape. And then I moved to Kind Kones, which is a plant-based ice cream brand. Then I was with Dome Cafe, and now I'm with Koppiku. So a lot in the F&B space.
Excellent. Then how did you get into marketing in the first place?
Okay, so that's a funny story. I actually feel like I kind of fell into marketing. I actually started, interning at a boutique advertising agency where I was handling client servicing, ad buys for newspapers. And truth be told, I hated it.
Ad buys for newspapers sounds like a very long time ago.
Yes, this was at least 15 years ago, right? Everything was still very traditional back then. It was literally being on the phone with the client going like, hey, would you like to secure your ad for your windowsill in the paper tomorrow? So I realized very early on that sales was not my jig. And thankfully at that point, my then boss noticed that I had somehow a flair for writing. So he had actually trusted me with one of our clients where I interviewed people and different departments, and I shared it in their internal newsletter. And that kind of got me into writing. And that's how I went and started Venuescape with my partner. It was a venue sourcing agency. I was in charge of the content side of things. So it was, again, a lot of interviews with venue owners, understanding what they do. And this was 2014-ish, 7 years later. 2020 hit, COVID came around. And I remember this was, I think, in March. The events industry was one of the most impacted industries. And I was then with my husband. We were both running this together. We had a 1-year-old. And I remember July came about and I'm like, what if this lockdown never ends? What will I do? Obviously, I looked at a gazillion job listings. I applied for content writers, copywriter positions, event positions, and a lot of marketing positions. And I think by chance, I managed to score a job with Kind Kones. And I think, that's how I kind of fell into marketing. And I have not looked back since.
You went from ad sales in the newspaper to content writing to marketing for your own platform, and then...
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of it, right? I feel like I'm a writer at heart. And I think that has really helped. But looking at marketing, because that's the wider umbrella, right? I think that was the thread that led me to becoming the marketer today, because I started as a copywriter. I did the whole ad buying thing. And this was natural progression.
So you've worked across ice cream brands, cafe, and now coffee. So what keeps drawing you to consumer brands?
It's always about the people, right? At the end of the day, I think the kind of marketer that I am is that I like to tell stories. I like to ensure that whatever we're trying to put out is relatable. It evokes some sort of emotion. And I think there's a lot of joy seeing things materialize and somebody come to you and say like, hey, you know what? That made a difference. Or, hey, I tried your product and that made a difference. Or, hey, my daughter is lactose intolerant and thank you for putting this out. And I think that kind of like motivates me. So sometimes it's really not about the product, but it's about how people receive your products. And I think I find a lot of joy in that.
With B2C brands, the feedback is quicker in that regard versus if you're doing something B2B.
Absolutely. And I think that is why I stuck in the B2C space, and especially in the F&B space, right? With F&B, everything is about engaging your 5 senses. But the one thing that I think really keeps drawing me back is that there's that 6th sense that nobody talks about. It's that heart, that heartbeat. What's pulsating your campaign? What's going to drive them? What's going to evoke emotions, feelings, and eventually get them off their seat from scrolling and going to your store, purchasing your product?
The other thing about marketing in B2C things move so fast. You have to be on trend. You have to keep responding to what's happening in the market, to what consumers are speaking about. So it's something we're going to be discussing in a moment. Before we get there, so we're here to also talk about things you've done at Koppiku. So what does your job at Koppiku actually involve day to day?
So I think, let me just explain what Koppiku is, right? Koppiku is a local homegrown grab and go coffee brand that started about almost 3 years ago. We have about 50 over outlets spread across KL, Selangor, Pahang, Ipoh, and we are entering new territories soon, which we're very excited about. And our menu is, you can get everything. It's a diverse menu, a lot of local flavors inspired by Malaysian favorites. And yeah, it's an artisanal coffee brand. And what I do day to day, I think there is no 2 days that are the same, which is what I think keeps me on my toes and that I love about my job. I come in on a Monday, I'm looking at past week's numbers, seeing how the campaigns are doing, how my promotions are doing, how our aggregators are doing. Maybe after lunch, I am in discussion with my creative team. We are planning for upcoming launches. We're going through creatives. We're seeing the copy, the content that we're going to be putting out. And then there's also a lot of cross collaboration with all the other departments, right? I work closely with the operations, with procurement, with finance, with HR, because at the end of the day, it's, we're working towards one shared goal. And while being in marketing, I may come up with all these crazy ideas, but they're not necessarily easily executable. So there's always that pressure test. So yeah, that's roughly how it is. And then of course, there are also a lot of events that come in. There's a lot of brand collaborations that I work with. It's a lot of meeting people and really trying to get our brand out there.
It's definitely a lot. And normally people think about marketers, they think like, you just do the social media, you just do the updates in the content on the website, you just do the menu and the nice pictures and whatnot. They don't think about how you're looking at whether or not there's been sales when you're working in finance, procurement and all these things. So it's way more perception that people usually have of what marketers do. Koppiku, you are in a very competitive category, right? Everybody's affordable. Everybody's on TikTok doing all these wonderful videos, enticing us to drink their coffee. So in that very competitive, very crowded space, what makes someone choose a Koppiku?
Wow. So many reasons. One of it is that we are strategically located. We are where you are. We're in transportation hubs, we're in your universities, we're in your office buildings. The other thing I think is if you have been following us on Instagram, then maybe you have a certain affinity towards our brand. And I think that comes with the campaigns that we've been putting out. If there is, if you've seen some of our past campaigns that touched your heart, or you've seen a product that you've never tried before, for example, our little Cendol launch, that could have driven you to a Koppiku. And I would like to think that what you see in our menu is it's Malaysian. We look for inspiration here in our own home. And yeah, if you tried a Koppiku, you probably be a Koppiku lover.
I'm trying a Koppiku for the first time today. It is really good. It's really good coffee. So you mentioned about being where the customers are, very visible, very accessible. When you look at running a campaign, I would say likes are still relatively easy to achieve. But what's harder is getting an actual sale. Sales is a lot harder. So what's the difference between a campaign that goes viral, that gets a lot of likes and engagement on social media versus one that actually sells the coffee?
Okay, you said likes are easy. I would like to just, my point of view is that likes are tough. Sales are tougher, right? If you manage to put out a content and you've gotten the likes and you've gotten the engagement, great. But if somebody has seen the content and just scroll past, then you were just entertaining them, right? But if somebody has seen your content, it has created some sort of interest and it has driven that person to get up and go and purchase your product, then that's a sale. So at the end of the day, of course, it's both have to work hand in hand, right? If that's the objective. And at the end of the day, I think numbers speak for themselves, right? If you're putting up a campaign, content, there are certain metrics that we are measuring. And, with the recent Cendol launch, we put up the Cendol content and we decided that we didn't want to just sell Cendol because Cendol is something that people already know about, people have fond memories about it. It's your childhood memories. It's your after school visit to your Cendol uncle, your favorite Cendol uncle and we wanted to ensure that we were not trying to replace anything. We wanted to kind of pay homage to the original sellers, right? And we started interviewing these local legends who have been having their chendol stalls for generations. And I think that spoke to people. And then we got engagement about, oh, okay, people were recommending their favorite chendol stalls. And we took that and we went to interview the people that we could that came by the comments that we were seeing. And I think so it was great that we got good likes, got good engagement, and it translated to sales. I think that was a bonus. But yeah, likes and engagement is not easy, you know?
The algorithm has changed now. Like
Absolutely.
it's very difficult to get like sometimes you look at my own social media, you look at my agency's Instagram feed, most of the likes are from me.
Yes.
But the good news is, even though the likes are from me, the good news is Instagram posts are now discoverable. They get surfaced on Google, they get surfaced on AI overviews. So even though your post might not get the likes, they might have a chance of getting surfaced on the search. So it's something to add. So don't be too sad when you don't have that many views on your post or not that many likes. Actually, before we go to the story on Chendol, right? When I look at some coffee brands' feeds on TikTok, there's one particular brand, it's a chain. When I look at their feed, it's very product-centric. So they have very nice photos, very nice videos of the new flavor of that particular week, the new promo. It's very product-centric. You don't see any people in their posts. Then there's another brand, another coffee brand. And when you look at their posts, it is clearly filmed on a phone. It is not very polished. Every post has one individual who's in the videos, who's always dancing outside the outlet. And that one gets way more engagement, way more views, because on TikTok, you can see the video play count, right? So it gets way more views. So when you look at Koppiku's feed, like how do you balance between being human and having people in your post versus being product-centric?
That's an interesting one, right? I think it's something that we are a consumer brand at the end of the day, right? And if our feed, again, this is just us, I'm speaking on behalf of Koppiku right now, we feel that human touch is important. Yes, a product-centric page will look aesthetically beautiful, but if I can put out a content of a father and his son enjoying a Koppiku on Father's Day, I think that would evoke a lot more emotions for people to say, hey, I feel something, and kind of really tug on your heartstrings. I feel if we're going to put up something just visually appealing product, I may try it once, but I may not necessarily try it again. So I think at the end of the day, with AI and stuff like that, a lot of things are generated. We still spend a lot of time with our photo shoots. And I think if we're going to be serving consumers, we want to show them that we are authentic. And as long as we can keep, having the human element there, I think we will want to keep doing that. Because at the end of the day, we also want to be aspirational. We're a new brand, right? We want to be able to connect to audiences from different ages all the way up. So if we can speak to you with our funny content of, some trend that we are chasing at a tender age of, 18, 19 years old, we have hope that you will grow with us. And I don't know how that's necessarily going to be done if all you see on our page is product.
Exactly. Coming back to the Chendol story, so you mentioned that you went and interviewed all of these Chendol sellers, right? So how many of them did you eventually
So
speak?
far, we've done about 4. We've posted about 2 because this is going to be an ongoing campaign. The Chendol launch only happened about a month ago. And again, it was really about ensuring that we Jangan Lupa Cendol. That is the campaign name.
Right.
It was reminding people that we have Cendol. At one point back in the day, you could see a Cendol stall at every nook and cranny of your area. Right now, we'll be lucky if we can even find one. We realize that, it's not as available as it used to be. So when we came up with this, we worked on the product. The product was great. It's delicious. It's tasty. We brought in good partners to support us with the product, but we needed to add the heart to it. And again, we were not trying to sell Chendol to somebody. We wanted to ensure that we were respecting what Chendol means to everyone. And we couldn't do that by just putting out a product and saying, hey, here, try our Chendol. No, right? We needed to ensure that we could start a conversation about, hey, what are your favorite Chendol memories? So, we had a little bit of a launch. We interviewed the attendees, asked them what memories stuck with them when it came to Cendol. We decided to start our Koppiku Cendol series, Koppiku Cendol Stories, which is the one that you're talking about, where we went out and we are still going out and we interview these OGs, understand the inspiration. Some of them have been in the industry for years and decades. They've been generational over time, and some are family businesses. And I think it's so nice to hear their stories. And we've even gotten them to try our Cendol and got a bit of like a thumbs up, and we're like, okay, we're happy with that, sort of like it's a little bit of a validation that we're on the right track. So yeah, I think that, but there is one challenge that I think we had to also kind of iron out early on was getting people to kind of evolve with that format, because Cendol, typically you would sit down at the roadside and have your Cendol. Here we're giving it to you in a grab and go format. You can have it on your LRT ride to office if you want to. And thankfully, so far from the reviews that we've been reading, it's been good. People are enjoying it. So we're glad.
You mentioned to me about the influencer marketing that you did to support this particular campaign. Maybe you could share more with us about this influencer campaign that you did.
So while we had heart, we had created the campaign narrative. We had the story that we wanted to tell, the stories we wanted to share. We also needed to kind of engage somebody who is already in this space, who could drive the conversion for us, right? So we looked at quite a few content creators, and we decided to engage Jason Chen. He is that Mahana Mampui guy. Yeah. And one thing when we were speaking to him that really, I think, stood out for us was we knew he was credible, right? He's got a ton of followers who value his opinions.
And he's got his reputation of being very honest. You can't buy his opinion, so he's honest about the food that he's reviewing.
Absolutely. And I think that is what really stuck with us, right? Because we didn't want to engage somebody who is just going to tell people what we want them to tell people, right? We wanted this guy to come in, give us his honest review, share it with his audience, and then we just see what happens. So when we were engaging Jason, he did come to us. He did say, listen, I'm okay doing this. I will come and review your products. But one thing is, you cannot change my review or edit my review in any way. If I rate you a certain way, that's that. And I thought that was great, because at the end of the day, we wanted to engage somebody who's authentic. And he posted, and I remember he didn't let us know which outlet he was visiting or when he was visiting. So he also wanted to just go there authentically and get the service that you would get on a normal day, right? So we couldn't like prepare anything specially, just please arrive. And I think that's great, right? Because then you're going there, you're getting the exact experience. So he went, he recorded his content, he shared the draft with us. But again, all you can do is just edit or change the name of the products or the price if it was inaccurate. So when he posted it the next day, we were at the edge of our seats, because we were like, okay, how is he going to rate us? He had tried 3 drinks and we were, okay, this is going to be interesting. And I think he rated us very fairly. But that's not the best part, right? The best part was seeing what happened after that. When you engage a content creator, you look at the spike, yes. Yep. But then you also want to see what happens after that, right? Is it going to spike and crash? Is it going to spike and sustain? Is it going to spike and grow? And I think that's what we wanted to see. So we engaged him, I think, maybe a week after we launched. And what we saw was incredible. Like, he did what he had to do. He came out, he gave his review, and after that, seeing our numbers, it spoke for itself. He has an audience that truly believes him, truly values his opinion, and it showed in our numbers. And thankfully, those numbers have actually kind of sustained. Prior to engaging Jason and post-engaging Jason, I would definitely engage him again. He is super.
In the F&B space, when you engage an influencer, you do see the results. Like, I think last week, there's a story going viral about this influencer in China, right? So he went to some village area, he reviewed some food that he had, and suddenly now that restaurant run by one guy has queues that go on for hours, and it keeps trying to not get people to come to his restaurant, but now because it's gone viral, people keep coming to him. And in Malaysia, I keep looking at Mr. POV. So he'll go to those restaurants which have no customers, and then he will make a post, and he'll go back there a few days later and it's buzzing. It's clear that these influencers do have a real business impact on the brands and the products that they review or they talk about on their platforms.
Absolutely. Even as a consumer myself, I follow a few of these foodie influencers and I trust their content. I'm like, okay, I know what I'm going to have this weekend thanks to XYZ. So yeah, it's an interesting space to be in right now, actually.
So tell me about another campaign. So you've mentioned Cendol Kopi, excellent campaign. Congratulations on achieving those results. Those are the kind of campaigns that marketers want to be associated with and say, hey, look, I did this, I got this outcome, and this is the business impact. Excellent story, right? So now give me another campaign that did far better than you expected.
Okay. When I was in Kind Kones, because we were a vegan brand, there was a lot of education that was needed to educate customers about why you would choose a plant-based diet. And we did a lot of brand collaborations with like-minded brands. So we had an interesting collaboration request from My Little Pony. I saw the brief and I was like, okay, this is interesting. We were given their entire portfolio. I had to sit down and go through each and every one of their characters that they had.
How many is that in it?
Many. There are many in this Ponyville space. And what we did was we knew we were going to create ice cream flavors based on some of the characters. So we pinpointed two. And I remember very fondly, it was Pinkie Pie and Twilight Sparkle. And they embodied kindness and friendship, which was very much the values that Kind Kones has as well. And we came up with flavors that replicated the colors. So we used, like blueberry to get like Twilight's colors and whatever not. And again, this was plant-based, right? So no dairy. We didn't have any nuts in this ice cream. And it connected directly to families who I think we were speaking to at that point, that those were our target audience. It was families, children who had lactose intolerance. And I think how that campaign worked was amazing because we had parents write into us about their kids having allergies and not being able to enjoy ice cream, and finally enjoying ice cream that looked like their favorite TV show character was just out of this world. And yeah, I think that was one of my really fond campaigns that I've worked on. That was fun, yeah.
We've talked about two very successful campaigns. Now let's look at something that you thought was going to work, but then it flopped spectacularly.
I remember early on, we put out this product. I loved it. We put out this product and the team enjoyed it, but we didn't realize that it was not going to be well received by our customers at that point because they preferred things to be in the original sort of manner. Don't get me wrong, we had our perfect creatives with it. The POSM looked great, but when we launched it, the take-up rate was so low and we couldn't understand why. After deep diving, we understood that this was not our customers' favorite things. They didn't like a mash of two different cuisines. They preferred something that was straightforward. And that was a key learning for us. We were like, okay, so this has happened. Now we know. Now we need to kind of stick to the originals and not try to funk it up too much. So I think one of the lessons here was that, yes, trust your gut, but also know your customers. You have to know what your customers want.
I want to get back to the influencer marketing part. Earlier you mentioned about Jason, and you also shared a little bit about how you came to select him, what Koppiku valued about the kind of content he's creating, and the clear idea you had on the kind of impact he will have if he made those videos for you. What about a myth? What do you think is an expensive myth in influencer marketing right now?
I think one myth is that you engage one content creator and that becomes your entire campaign. Brands spend big bucks on engaging a content creator and expect that one reel to carry the entire campaign through. You need to engage a content creator to amplify your campaign, not necessarily drive it through that entire 8-week duration.
So over-reliance on just one to carry the entire
absolutely
campaign. So we can't avoid talking about AI in these conversations, especially in marketing right now. So I want to go specific since we're talking about influencer marketing, right? So if you look at global brands, even Malaysian brands, they are now looking at AI ambassadors, AI influencers. I think on Instagram, they call them the digital virtual creator or digital virtual influencers. So there's some brands, like for example, Qatar Airways has virtual air stewardess called then in Singapore, MaxiCash has this virtual personality they call it called Haley. And then you look closer to home, you look at Malaysia, they have Cool Rhino has a blue hat influencer by the name of Era. So what are your thoughts around virtual influencers?
I think it's fascinating to see where we are today from how we used to traditionally go out with our huge video cameras to record something. And today everything can be done with a couple of clicks of buttons. It's fascinating. It's super convenient. It's low budget. Everything is in your control. There's no tantrums. There's no timelines. There's no, oh, I'm going to be late. Nothing of that sort. It's efficient, but we haven't explored it yet on our end, at least. And I like to see, I've seen some of it, and it's nice to see how they're getting more real and more nuanced as we go along with time. Yeah. It's scary, but yeah, I think it's super fascinating that this is where we are now.
So when I first encountered some of these, I was like very skeptical. Then I saw a campaign by BMW. So they launched their first all-electric vehicle, and the person who was driving it was a virtual personality called Little Michaela. So she was driving the car. So a virtual person driving a real car, right? And when I looked at that, then I spoke to a few people about it, and the conclusion they came to is that, look, they might not be real, they might be virtual, but their influence is real. So that's why all these brands are working with these virtual personalities. So you mentioned earlier that they are never late for a photo shoot. They're ageless, right? They never get old. Always have perfect skin.
That's right.
Right? So then what's the catch, if there is one?
I don't know. I mean, you mentioned this BMW thing, and I think that's super interesting. I would like to sit down with your marketing team and find out, like, how well did that campaign do? How many cars did they sell, And if they really influence people to actually go and buy it, then kudos, that is great. But you can use AI to sell the product, sure. But I think if you're looking at something more deeper, something that you want to, relate to on a different level, then I don't think you can replace the human touch. I use AI for my day-to-day, but at the end of the day, whatever comes out of it, I still need to fact check it. I still need to go through it. I need to, ensure that everything is right. And you can, as a person, I can see myself relate to another person. How do I see myself relate to someone who was generated? Yeah, that is scary. That is scary, especially when it comes to more deeper campaigns, at least.
Which is when I look at some of these brands, what they do is they try and it's like any other human influencer. What they will do is they will seed content. This person will show their coffee, show their travels, hang out with other human influencers. And over time, people start liking their personality and they start following them. And over time, people start being influenced by what they have to share. So which brings me to Cool Rhino. So Cool Rhino, they have, like I mentioned, they have this virtual personality called Era. And they are a beverage brand in Malaysia, and they have doubled down on this AI ambassador. Do you think it could ever work for Koppiku?
Could it? Possibly. Would it? I think, again, if we are, creating an AI ambassador, it would be to do more of the surface level stuff, like, try and sell a product. But again, coming up with our campaign direction and content, and if we can continue using proper real human, I think we would still lean towards that.
Then let me go to another question. So last week on LinkedIn, I posted about, I've been doing this series on mascots and how they're very effective in marketing. So then last week I was looking at Mishware. So Mishware, they have the Snow King. And apparently when they IPO, they took 12% of their budget to develop more IP around the Snow King. And now they are selling in some of their stores in China on the second floor. They have just Snow King merchandise. Because you sell a cup of Mishware, say tea, right? Maybe it's, 5 RMB, but they sell a Snow King merchandise is 20. And there was this whole talk about how, because of the mascot, because he's so cute, he's in micro dramas, he's got a nice jingle. Over time, people develop this soft spot and this affinity for the brand, which also then gives them an edge over all the other similar tea brands that are in their market. So maybe you no to a virtual personality, but what about, do you think you'd ever want to consider doing a mascot?
I love mascots. I love mascots. And I think, with the My Little Pony thing, I saw how people and children and adults just ran to our store when we had both the mascots there and gave them a hug. And even with Dome, we had a really cute mascot that we did like an activation and people really connected with it. And if we can create a mascot for Koppiku, I would think it would look like a cute little cup, right? And then turn that into merchandise and create a new revenue stream for us. Why not?
If you go to some of the restaurants, they always have this Insta-worthy spot where everybody wants to post, sit down and take a picture and then post it and say, hey, look, we were there. So I think with a mascot, it's unlikely somebody's going to take a photo in front of the outlet and post it. But if let's say there's a cute mascot, they'll be willing to take a picture, a selfie, and then they'll post it. And that also builds more brand awareness and also probably drives people to the store.
That's mobile branding, right? If I had a cute little Koppiku mascot keychain thing and I can sell that to 100 people and they're all hanging these keychains on their bag, it's great for me. That's like free advertising branding for us. So I think this mascot thing is definitely something that is, mascot turning it into a merchandise line. Yes. If we have the budgets for that, definitely something we want to look into. And it's actually in the pipelines.
When I look at the food delivery space, Food Panda has done a great job with their mascot. Pao Pao is everywhere. It's so cute. And when you think Food Panda, you think of Pao Pao. And he makes a cute sound on the push notification as well. But I've not done any analysis to see how that has impacted their sales versus, say, Grab Food or Shopee Food.
It would be interesting to see, isn't it? Because like you said, the minute I think of Food Panda, I'm thinking of Pao Pao. But that itself is marketing, right? We're talking about it. And the listeners are going to be talking about it. And all because they have this cute little mascot.
You know what's interesting? I've never bought Mishue before. So I've not tried the ice cream. I've not tried the tea. But I think they were celebrating a certain number of stores that they had opened globally. And in Singapore and Bugis Junction, they had this huge inflatable Snow King. Even though I've never tried the brand and I have no great love for it, I thought that was cool. I took a picture with the Snow King, and forwarded it to a few people.
You became their brand ambassador for the day,
Exactly. Yeah. It does work. But yeah, there's a lot of things that the mascot needs to embody, which is why even for us, for Two Stallions, we launched our own mascot. So we give him away as a plushie. We have him on our website and we also use him for some of the slides that we present. So we'll have him there.
The cuter, the better, right? Like it has to be cute. It has to be cute. If it's got that cutesy factor, yes.
Yes. Yeah, people come when they come to our booths, they're like, hey, can we get the plushie?
Does the plushie have a name?
Yeah, his name is Gallium.
So cute.
We did an entire naming contest among the team and everybody had to come up with a name and then justification why the name came up. And then everyone voted on the name and then this one got selected.
And you see, even that, there's an entire process that's not as simple as just designing a cute little plushie mascot and saying this is it. No, there's so much of legwork that went into that.
In terms of brand and influencer marketing in Malaysia, what do you think is overhyped?
If we're just talking about brand and what is overhyped is, I think some brands feel that they need to be on every platform there is and post every single day. I think that's overhyped. I think if you know where your audience is and you're putting out quality content and you're speaking directly to them, that is probably the better way to look at it rather than trying to be in every space that may or may not speak to your audience.
Reminds me of a conversation we've had with someone, how they were posting, I think, every day of the week, 3 times a day or 4 times a day. It was so tiring just to hear you have to post so many times a day. And is it even working? Like, is it even making any sort of an impact?
Exactly. But if it works for you, then great, go ahead. But, also with Instagram, algorithms change, right? At one point, posting reels every day was the right thing to do. And then now it's like you should be posting carousel, still images. So I think choose your platform, choose it well. And if you're connecting with your customers directly, great. If that means you have to post 5 days, so 5 times a day, sure. But if it doesn't work for you, then find what works.
What about what's underrated right now?
What is underrated right now? This one's going to be a bit controversial. I think posting for the sake of posting, right?
It's underrated. Posting for the sake of posting.
Yes.
Tell us more.
I feel, again, maybe I'm a little bit more traditional in this side of things. It took me a long time to even kind of accept influencer marketing to begin with. And I'm happy to be proven wrong, right? But if we're just posting for the sake of posting, what are we trying to achieve? I think when we come up with our content calendar, there are certain objectives that we want to meet. Some are for awareness, some are for education, some are just, for entertainment. But there is that goal that we are trying to reach. But if you're putting up content just for the sake of it, then why are we doing that? I think I've seen brands jump on trends a lot.
Speaking of posting for the sake of posting, I think you see that a lot on LinkedIn. Just adding to the noise, one of my favorite posts that I actually took a screenshot of was someone who's an educator out of nowhere posting a picture of rambutans and saying, oh, you should eat your rambutans. I'm like, and that's it, one line, eat your rambutans. I'm like, okay, how is this adding value to your professional network? How is this aligned to who you are? Like, of course, if let's say you own a rambutan farm and you're talking about it, but no, it's just random out of nowhere. And it's like posting for the sake of posting.
Did he get good engagement?
I can't remember. I'm just going to refer to the screenshot after this.
But yeah, I think again, it's just figuring out what works for your brand. For us, I feel like when we put out something, we want to ensure that there's some sort of substance and relevance to it. Yeah, so that's how I think we do it now.
We're almost towards the end. Something you can share with other marketers. Like, what's one thing you tell a marketer who wants a campaign that will have an impact beyond just engagement? What is it?
I think when you are coming up with your campaign, always have the end goal in sight. Know what your objectives are, what are you trying to achieve, what your targets are, and don't move the goalpost, because then you're just trying to justify your reasons and results. Once you have a clear understanding of what your end goal is, work towards that. And if it hits, great. If it misses, everything is a key learning. Take away something from it and improve on the next campaign.
Similar to the point that we were talking about earlier, like experimenting. So you experimented, didn't work, you try the next thing. Don't get too hung up on your failures.
Absolutely. I mean, we all have failed over and over and over again. But what's important is that with each failure, you're taking back a key lesson or key lessons that, like, okay, moving forward, I know that this is relevant. This is what I should do. This is what I shouldn't do. And keep learning. I mean, life is a journey and knowledge is power.
And also, you shouldn't hold too strongly to some of your beliefs. For example, I didn't used to think that back when TikTok first came into the scene, I used to just see those silly memes, people lip syncing songs or dancing. I was like, what a useless platform, right? I was dismissive, but look at where we are today. And now I have to learn the platform, and it's something that we offer to clients. So you have to, in a way, like you said, learn, be flexible, and if it's something that you thought didn't work but now it's worked, you need to adopt it and accept it.
Exactly. Adapt, adapt. Very similarly how I thought about influencer marketing when it first came out 10 years ago. It's I didn't understand it. But look at it today. Look at TikTok, like what you just mentioned, the potential the platform has. So sometimes, we can be strong believers with certain things, but there should be room for us to wiggle around and see what is actually working out there.
Actually, to add to the point on experimentation, there's just one example that I really like. Dentists. So there are a lot of dentists on TikTok, and most dentists will do the same post that everybody does. It's like how to floss, how to brush, how to take care of your teeth, what toothpaste to use, and the usual content. But there's one dentist in Singapore. He decided to do ASMR content of him eating sweets. Can you imagine a dentist? Yeah. So he'll do a close-up of his mouth eating a sweet. ASMR content. You know how many followers he has now on TikTok?
How many?
3.7 million.
Wow.
Some of his posts, they get 1 million views, 1 million plays on their posts. And what's even crazier is that he charges a good 5 figures to brands, to sweet and chocolate brands who want to be the one that he chews on.
This guy has nailed it.
And experimented, right? He experimented. He just tried something different. The audience liked it and he just doubled down.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's another one, another good example of needing to experiment. Okay, Ravena, we are now on to the rapid fire round. So you need to be giving me one-line answers, quick ones. So let's start. Your go-to Koppiku order.
Cendol.
One influencer, any budget for Koppiku's next campaign, who will it be?
Cairo Laming.
Virtual influencers, yes or never?
Maybe.
Maybe. A trend you're glad is dead.
The copycat trend.
The most overused word in marketing?
Synergy.
One campaign, any brand, any country that you wish you had been part of?
Lego. I would love to work with Lego.
Okay, before we finish off, is there anything you'd like people to do after they've heard this particular episode?
Come try Koppiku if you haven't. We have 50 over outlets. We are located in KL. We've got outlets in Selangor, Pahang, Ipoh very soon. We're also branching into other states. We're accessible. We're affordable. You can't miss our cute little green cabins. And if you need a recommendation, try our Koppiku latte, our matcha latte, cereal latte, and also our cendol. And, if you want to keep up with what's happening with Koppiku, follow us at koppiku.my. We are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
Thank you for joining us for this episode, Ravena, and thank you for sharing some of your successes, your failures, and also giving us an insight into what your world as a marketer looks like and the kind of things, the cool things that you're up to at Koppiku.
Thanks so much for having me, Razi. I had such a good time sharing.
If you enjoyed this episode, remember to like and subscribe. If you know any marketer that you think should be on our next episode, please do comment and let us know who we should interview next. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next episode.